So I just bought this Boxer 525 DX mini skid steer. The guy I bought it off of also bought it used. It was mostly used for tree work. Came with a bucket and a grapple. It's had a few issues so far, just because of the abuse and the lack of maintenance, but I'm gonna get this thing caught up to par. So starters, it just had a couple of loose fittings, leaking oil, so hydraulic oil that is. So I tightened up the fittings, haven't found any leaks since then. Added on some protective wrap on some of the hydraulic lines, and this is actually the one of the battery terminal leads. It's got some controls missing. It's got a track narrower right there, so it goes down to 36 inches wide, or you can spread it out, I think, to 46, something like that. You can look up the stats on that. And then it's got a high flow pump. That's the third function grapple control, the bucket and tracks, and then the flow control for the high flow side, and then the rabbit control. So I already started diving into it. I blew out the air filter, degreased it, pressure washed it down. It also has a rough, runs rough from just off of idle until probably about 2200 RPM. So at idle it runs fine, and then wide open it runs fine with no issues, but in between it runs really rough. The research I've done shows that it's the fuel injection pump, so I'm probably going to send that out and get it rebuilt, but figured I'd take you guys along for the ride. So I took the battery out. I've got that on the charger. The guy I bought it off of said that the exciter wire for the alternator was not functioning. I'm not sure if that's the board or the wire itself. There was this random wire here that was hooked up to the positive lead on the battery terminal. I'll have to look at the wire chart, see where that goes. It also had a switch wired in up here that is not stock, that was used for a stump grinder. So I got to look into that as well, probably just take that out. But that's the injection pump right there behind the battery. Fuel comes in here, goes through that solenoid, and then into the injection pump up here. There's little bearings in there. I've watched several other YouTube videos that control the on-off for the fuel, and those bearings can seize up. I don't know if that's my problem or not, but I do know that this injection pump will probably need to be rebuilt soon, even if that isn't the problem. The machine's got about 1900 hours on it. Whenever I work on stuff, I like to take a lot of pictures or video so that I know where everything goes, what size fuses go where, what wires go where. More pictures the better, because you'd be surprised how often you can reference back to them and then know what's going on. So I yanked those extra wires out that were not stock, and in the process found a wire that's disconnected. Another wire right there, that red one, worn through. So I'm sure that's causing an electrical problem somewhere. And a couple other spots where this has been fiddled with, right there. So this is going to need some cleanup. Another problem I was having with it is the left fuel tank would stay full and they wouldn't even out. They are connected at the bottom, and they do have an on-off at the bottom of each side. So the on-offs were really hard to screw in and out, so I'm guessing there's all kinds of crud and buildup in there, so I screwed them in and out a few times until I got them to shut off. I'm going to go ahead and remove the fuel tanks next. Also, there is this small vent line at the top that goes from one to the other. So I knew it wasn't a venting issue for the most part. It looks clear. Doesn't look like there's anything stuck in it. So there's one of the fuel tanks removed. Alright, I just got done running this thing. Time for an oil change. .22mm bolt. Oil pan nut. Oil pan bolt. You know what I'm talking about. So this thing chatters really bad between like a quarter and 3/4 throttle. It's like a really bad knock. I was hoping that it was something simple, and I think I found out what it is. So this motor mount's cracked all the way across. Let me zoom in here so you guys can see. Right at that second row of bolts. So that's probably going to be a project for the spring. It's getting pretty cold here in Michigan, so I don't think I'm going to take this motor out until spring and get that welded up. And then also that plate mounts in 2 different spots on the frame, and 1 spot on the frame is cracked also, so I'm going to have to weld that as well. So I got that motor mount out, and it is completely cracked in half. There's the bottom part, it mounts against the frame. Those 2 holes right there. And that's what that clacking and chattering was all about, was those pieces of metal slamming together.